Uh, Welcome, everybody, to the After Dark Show. I'm Don Rogers. I'm really excited to have my guest tonight because it's actually somebody I've met in real life, which is a new thing for me on this show because that has very rarely happened since I've done the first 50 or so episodes. I've never actually met one of the people that I've interviewed. And the person I am going to interview tonight, well, first of all, let me say I'm going to be joined tonight by my interdimensional exit buddy and co-host tonight, Canadian Spinja. We'll probably accidentally use her name, Kyla, so we'll just go from there. But my guest tonight is one of the most interesting people and spiritually intuitive people I have personally come across in my own journey and awakening so far. I just said this to her before we started the show. I could have spent a week on her website. We'll get into that later, and that's SonyaRoy.com, which is kind of the spoiler. My guest tonight is Sonya Roy, and I'm actually going to read the bio she has on her website because I could not possibly remember all of the stuff that she has done, and I'm just going to go over it real quick. Um, Sonya Roy was born in St. Constant, Quebec. She completed her studies at the University of Montreal in psychoeducation in 1997. She is a retired corporal from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. She owns and operates the Redu Spiritual Wellness Center in Drumheller, Alberta. Yeah, right in our backyard. Um, Over the past 35 years, she developed her gifts as a medium, master holistic healer, and shamanic practitioner to heal those around her. These teachings were passed down to her from her maternal grandmother. She started practicing Reiki in 2013 and teaches and shares her knowledge through workshops, conferences. I lost my place. Through workshops and conferences around the world. She has strived to produce a bilingual manual for all levels of Yiso Reiki Ryo. Shoot.
You be
No.
Reiki Ryo.
I knew I was going to mess that one up, and I even practiced it before the show.
I made him practice.
Yeah. Um, Universal Teachings. She also developed the Wisdom School of Spiritual Transformation to help people on their spiritual journey, which we were just talking about, and of her learning and growth. She's also a very accomplished author. She wrote uh, the book of, I'm going to mess it up. Tanae, the Warrior Princess, with the first and second book of Tanae, Warrior Princess, with the third installation on its way. In 2008, she wrote The Initiation. In 2015, she wrote The Apprentice. 2018, The 13th Chakra System of Ancient Egypt, which is just fascinating. 2019, I Dragon Biography of Spiritual Transformation. And in 2020, she wrote Reiki Uso Ryoku Level 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, and Master Teacher. Tibetan and Master Teacher Universal. And in 2022, the 13th Chakra System of Ancient Egypt, deluxe hardcover and fully illustrated. That is just a brief overview of everything this amazing woman has done. And quite the mouthful, I might add. So thank you so much for coming and spending some time with us. I was absolutely fascinated when we first met, and I would just love to hear, like, in your intro, it said that your grandmother got you interested, like, in energy work and healing. How did that all really kind of get started?
So I just got something in my eye.
Yeah.
I can't get rid of it, so I'm not really crying. Well, my grandmother passed away before I was born. So when as far as I remember, I think it was about 4. She would come every night into my room through this I would say a portal, like a door of light, and she would come and tuck me in and hold me, and then wish me good night. And then so she's always been present. I always remember her being present. And to me, that was perfectly normal, because not that I would really discuss this with my family, but no one really, seemed to think that I was crazy. So everything seemed normal to me. And then when I was about 13, 14, then she started taking me outside of my body and taking me to different locations around the world. So I remember going to the Great Pyramid and experimenting with an initiation that was taking place in there. And I was able to also travel to the Akashic Record Library, which is located in a different dimension than the third dimension. So that was my regular evenings. I'd go to bed, she'd come to my room, and off we'd go. So I've always worked at night, even though I was in a different dimension. I never had much than, I think I get about 3 hours of sleep a night, because the rest of the time, even though my body is physically laying in bed, my consciousness is very aware and very awake, and so it doesn't feel like I'm sleeping, obviously. To me, sleeping is like passing out. So you just stop seeing things, you stop hearing things, you stop interacting with people. And so yeah, so she was the one who taught me about everything that I know. And eventually I wasn't sure, because when I got to high school, I guess, someone had a headache. So I'm like, oh, well, I said, would you like me to take care of that for you? And they looked at me like, do you have any Tylenols, or, and I'm like, no, here. And I just did my thing, take the headache away. And they're looking at me and they're like, wow, you're crazy. And that became my nickname. I mean, I became Crazy Sonya. And so I stopped talking about it then. And I didn't start talking about it again until I was about 32. And I got over the fear of sharing this. And I got over the fear of whatever people were going to think of me. I just didn't care anymore, because I couldn't deny my experiences and my knowledge. And so I just got over the fear, and I just started sharing again. And but I wasn't sure that what I knew was would be, I don't know, accepted or believed. So I took classes. I took Akashic classes. And I found that I knew more than they knew in the classroom. And then I took classes from Doreen Virtue on angel therapy and on tarot reading, and realized, yeah, I'm doing it the way she's, saying to do this. And as time went by and as experiences accumulated, I started to realize that I actually have a lot of holes. People have holes in their theory or have holes in their knowledge, and I have what they're missing, basically. So and that gave me a lot of confidence, and I decided that maybe it was time for me to share what I knew. And that's when I started writing books, and I started at first I started doing mediumship, because I'm really, this is like, it's not even a second thing to me. It's so natural for me to cross to the other side and talk to other beings and other dimensions, that I figured this is where I should start. And then I got into the Reiki, and then I realized a lot of people need to know these things, not just always depend on someone else to tell them the information. Because I started, you start working in that area, and all of a sudden you start meeting everybody else that works in that field, kind of thing. And I was disappointed in some people because they were working out of fear. And since 2012, that has shifted. So we don't need to work out of fear anymore. So we can let that go. And some people can't let that go. Other people are just trusting that if I tell them that the sky is green and they've been wrong all this time, they're going to actually believe it. And I'm like, no, you should question what people are saying to you. Me included, right? You shouldn't accept everything that someone tells you for the truth. Even Buddha said to his disciples, question everything I say. Find the truth for yourselves. Don't accept because it's me, Buddha, saying it, that it's 100% true or real. You should always, every time, ask yourself, how does this resonate with me? How is this real for me? And how does this apply to me? And does it apply to me? Right? So I thought it was becoming very important for people to actually learn these skills, because you don't need to be special. to be able to do any of the things that I do. But it's like reading and counting. If no one has taken the time to teach you, you know, it's all gibberish. You know what I mean? But once you've taken the time to learn, you can't unlearn what you've learned. You've learned it. You'll know how to read forever now, and you'll know how to count forever. And so it's the same idea. I'm there to teach those things that my grandmother taught me and showed me, so that people can make their own mind and learn the truth for themselves.
I absolutely love that. And you actually, before we get into the Reiki, you were talking about having experiences in different realities while you were asleep. We were talking about this before. I actually experienced similar things. I call them transdimensional experiences. It's a word, a verb, a name that I got from another podcast host. Sorry, kind of stammered there. Do you think that there's a way to select, and this is something I've been kind of half into right now, is a way to select your transdimensional experiences? Like, can you put the intention before you meditate into sleep or whatever it is you do that I'm going to go here and have this experience?
Absolutely. If you actually know, the problem is most people don't know what options there is for them to go to. So they're at a bit of a loss. Like if like, I'll give you an example. I've just planned a trip to Japan, right? I take groups all over the world, and we're next year, well, just coming up in May 2025, I'm taking a group to Japan for the solar plexus. Okay, so I need to do research. I need to feel the energy. I need to know where I'm taking these people. I know it's Japan, but Japan is a big place. So where am I going to go, right? And so most people are going to go, "Oh, cool, Japan. Where are you going?" And but it required me to know these things, to do research, to look into it, right? So it's a bit of the same thing. You can go to other planets. You can go to different solar system. But you can also on Earth go inside the Earth and different locations, and you can go through. For me, what I really like is going through time. So I've been to places like the Temple of Isis, where I was in Egypt at the Temple of Isis, but I was able to transport myself 4,000 years in the past. So and I'm not sleeping. So that's also the other thing. You don't need to be asleep. You can be perfectly awake and decide to make this you call them transdimensional shift, which is fine, right? So I was there, and I had someone beside me, and I'm describing everything to them, and they're like, "So you read this in the book?" I said, "No, I'm seeing it right now. I'm here right now." But I have to hang on to someone because I'm not seeing any debris on the ground to 4,000 years ago, but it could be in present day debris. So I can't, I need someone to walk with me and help me, because I'm not seeing what's there now. But I'm in like both places at once. There's a place there's one of the retreats that I do, and I talk about, it's a 5-dimensional retreat. So I'm helping people connect to at least the 5th dimension, right? And once they know about this, there's 2 schools that you can attend to. You can attend to a school in Telos, which is underneath Mount Shasta in Northern California, but you can also go to class in Brazil or in the mountain where Machu Picchu is. My series of podcasts coming up, I'm actually talking about Jules Verne, which talks about 20 Leagues Under the Sea, talks about the trip inside the Earth. Those things, I think, were for him transdimensional traveling that he put into fantasy novels, because it was so life-changing for him. He needed to share this. But if he went around, I mean, Jules Verne was 200 years ago, if he went around telling people, "I've had this experience," he would have been locked up. He would have been medicated and lobotomized. He couldn't share these things and say, "These happened to me." So he instead wrote a fantasy novel. Everybody praised him for his imagination and everything else, but really what it was him traveling to these dimensions and trying to share this with us.
That is amazing, and something I've even experienced, because I haven't figured out how to hone it yet, and maybe I should keep in contact with you about this. But her and I have been sitting here before, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm about only 80% here." And she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "I'm walking down a hallway on a spaceship right now, and blah, blah, blah." And she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "I can see this, but it's not in front of me. And she's like, okay. So I totally understand what you're talking about because it's actually something I've been experiencing just by accident, more or less. But I love the idea that I can hone that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. For some people, they don't know what it's going on, right? So it's harder for people to share these experiences because they don't know what really is going on. So they they're not sure, right? And we have all these diseases out there, schizophrenic, and you're hearing voices. Well, people often ask me, so you hear voices? I said, yeah. And they're like, well, how do you know you're not schizophrenic? Because I said the voices are not my voice. No one is telling me to hurt anybody or to do anything weird or anything against my will. I meet these beings from other dimensions and I have conversations with them and they're very real. So I don't know. I don't know how I'm not a schizophrenic, so I can't explain what that is like, but I can definitely explain what it's like to be me. And all I do is really help people. So I don't think that I need to be stopped.
Oh, I think what you're doing is absolutely wonderful. And just in the like 15 minutes we've been on the air, you just completely expanded my perception of what's been going on in my reality. So absolutely very good at what you do.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, so you can set your mind to traveling to specific places, but it's always the intention of you could ask for, let's say, a blue car that's a 2024, let's say, right? But the universe had something better for you, but it comes in red. But because you asked for blue, the universe is canceling the red, which was better, and is going to now struggle, but eventually find you the blue. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
sometimes when you're setting intentions, you should set your intentions in a way that open the door for the universe to give you what you actually need in order to progress and grow at the moment, rather than insisting on getting something that you're not ready for. So an example of that is when I was younger, I was about 14, and I could hear my grandmother's voice. I could feel her tucking me in and giving me a hug, but I couldn't see her yet. And I was like, well, I want to see you. And she's like, you need to start owning your gift as a feeler and as a audio clairaudient. And then when you're good and ready, we'll open your other senses. But there's no point in making things happen that you're not quite ready for just yet. So I had to wait quite a few years, and I started seeing. I was about 19, but then I could see, but I wasn't afraid anymore of seeing. And that's the other thing. Sometimes people are asking for things, but they're afraid of it, and so they won't give it to you, because if you're afraid, then you block things, and they don't want you, if you're on your way to opening up to all these different modalities and other dimensions, to make you afraid. So they'll take it slower and they'll show you things one at a time and get you comfortable, get you to own up what you're doing here, what's the purpose of it, and then they'll open it for more for you.
I love that. And I just want to grab the point of what you were saying earlier, though, is when you're putting out your intention or trying to manifest, don't be too precise or demanding with the universe, because they might have something better.
Exactly. And then also, I've had a different experience with the group I was in Peru, and it was very interesting because you can call yourself spiritual, but that doesn't mean that you are, right? And you can think, I'm ready for this and I'm good at this, and I don't see why the universe is not giving me the information I want. And I'm thinking, sitting back observing this, going, well, first, you're demanding of the universe, God, the source, creator, you can call it whatever you want, but this supreme power that on your own time, in your own way, you're telling it, give it to me now. I said that even for me, who's been doing this, I've been doing this all my life, right? And I'm 53 years, I'm going to be 53 years old in March. Never have I said to God, give it to me and give it to me now and give it to me in that box, ever. You know, I usually will say, I'll give you an example. I was wondering and I communicate with the source through my meditation. That's, you can do that through prayer, to walking in the woods, but you need to feel connected, right? So when I'm connected, I said, how can I reach more people with this? How can I, expand my ability to reach out people without, necessarily breaking a bank or, I wanted to be able to give more information to more people out there, as my way to give back. So if you work one-on-one with me, obviously you pay. But if, there was another way of doing this, I'd be open to it. My meditation ended. I didn't get an answer. But within that week, someone came and talked to me and said, hey, Sonya, so your podcast? I said, no, I don't have a podcast. Are you sure? Well, yeah, kind of sure that I don't have a podcast. Oh, okay. Well, I was sure and convinced you had a podcast. I was like, no, I don't. And then I'm thinking with my business partner, I said, well, I'm thinking maybe podcast will be, what we might need to do. But I said, honestly, I'm not sure if it might be complicated, might take a lot of work, and we don't have a lot of time for that. And then second person comes up to me. So, if your podcast, I said, no, that wasn't me. Are you sure? Yes, but I'm working on it. Because I'm hearing the universe is speaking to me, even though it's speaking through somebody else. So then I'm at the restaurant and I'm with my business partner, and I said, I said, I think we're really going to have to get on board with this podcast. I just really don't know how this works. I wonder, where I could get trained and where someone could help me with this. A few days later, we're visiting a cave in Mount Shasta in California, and someone says, so do you do podcasts? I said, no, but I'm trying to figure out how this all works because I don't know how it works. Said, oh, it's super easy. Do you mind if I grab your phone? I'm like, go ahead. She downloads the app. She shows me what to do. She says, you press play and off you go. I'm like, okay. All right, we're doing podcast. And so this was 2018, 2019. And we now, we changed the formula over time. We used to do series. So you would have 8 episodes, and they were back to back every week for 8 weeks. And then we realized, because of the amount of time and effort I put into those podcasts, because they're quite informative and researched and all that, I said, I think maybe it'd be better if I just do one once a month instead. So now we changed the format a little, but they're live. People are actually able to come in person, ask us question live, which is always fun. And I get comments from people from all over the world, which tells me, okay, well, that answers my question. That outside of this media, there was no way these people were ever going to find me or hear what I had to share. And so that's how I got my answers. So it's not because I wanted an answer that morning that it came that morning. It came when I was ready and when I paid attention, and the synchronicity happened, and things put themselves together, and it just worked. Right? So
I actually really identify with that, because a year ago, I didn't even listen to podcasts. I thought they were dumb. And then when everything clicked, I was like, I need to do a podcast, because this is the easiest way for me to talk to the most advanced people that I can find, and it's working, and I love it.
And that's the thing, right? I've been doing this for publicly now for, we calculated 15 years now. And it grew, right? So the center didn't open, the center opened in 2011. But before that, I was still doing things. I started in 2008 doing conferences, and, so it's amazing when the universe is leading the way for you. And this is kind of difficult for some people because they're in ego, right? They still want it on their own time, in their own way. But when you surrender, I think this is important for your listeners, right? You have free will, which means you make choices all the time. You make a choice to get up, you make a choices what to eat, you make little choices, and then you make big choices, where you're going to live, where you're going to work, and how you're going to be with other people. Are you going to be kind? Are you going to be rude? You make choices, right? And but eventually what happens in the spiritual journey is you understand that your choice is to listen to the big boss and whatever the big boss is saying is the best, easiest, simplest way of accomplishing what you're trying to accomplish. So you're still choosing, but you're choosing the easy way. You're choosing the inspiration, you're choosing the intuition, you're choosing the synchronicity. So I always say, it was funny because I was trying to book a flight. Now I book flights all the time. I travel, I you know, people at the airport actually at security know me. So, you know, you travel quite a bit when that happens. And so I book flights all the time. And I just booked a flight and it went well. And now I'm trying to book a flight to Texas for a different day. And nothing's working. The internet's frozen. The phone lines are busy. I can't book this ticket for 3 days. And then I phoned the person who was trying to have me come to Texas. And I said, I'm not sure what's going on, but something's going to happen and I won't be able to travel. And she's like, well, how would you know that? I said, because I can't book the ticket. So if it's not easy and it's not simple and it's all complicated, maybe it's because I'll get the plane ticket cheaper 3 days from now. Maybe, I don't know. But I said, right now I can't book. So I don't think I'm coming. So I'm sorry. Well, 2 days later, they announced all the COVID stuff and all the borders closed and this, and that. So I wouldn't have been able to fly, obviously, because of all those measures. So I'm very aware that if it's not easy, if it's not simple, if it doesn't do it, you know, it's not easy to do, then it's not the right time, it's not the right place, it's not the right location, and I wait. I meditate and I ask more directions. So, yeah.
I think that's a great practice to get into and just kind of take the guidance from within. Um, you had mentioned earlier about your practice of Reiki, and I'd love to know like at what age you got into that. And I actually want to get Spinja to read something out of one of the books that you wrote, and this might go down a whole other rabbit hole with me, so just bear with me because you struck a nerve, and I love this. So if you want to go ahead, because this is out of Reiki level 1.
This is how I knew that like he's always been supportive, but I knew that I would get his attention and actually have a chance of him getting like sitting still enough for me to do sessions on him, because he's just always go 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 go. And it's not that he didn't believe in it, it's just that, you know, I got other stuff to do. And it's like, no, you need to listen to this. And this is the only excerpt that I read to him out of the book, because I knew that's all it took.
All right. What did I write? I'm kind of curious now.
This is from page 13. And it's under the title of "What is Reiki and How Does It Heal?" And it's the second paragraph. Our body is made up of physical elements such as muscles, bones, nerves, arteries, organs, glands, etc. However, all of these are made up of atoms first. Water, for example, is made up of 3 atoms, 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen, that are joined by electrons. The quantum field fills the space between the nucleus of each atom and the range of electrons, which forms 99.99% of the space occupied by the water molecule. Human beings are made up of about 80 to 85% water. This means this space is mainly composed of 99.99% of quantum energy. The rest of the body is also composed of ready-made molecules made from atoms. Therefore, human beings are made of 99.99% of quantum energy.
Which I did not know of your book, but several months back, I was asked a question about whether or not I believed we were in a simulation or a holographic reality. And I ended up being able to break down the construct of our reality, at least in my own logic, as a intelligent biomolecular, intelligent biomolecular makeup of our reality is basically exactly that. It's intelligent molecules, this whole reality. So everything here is exactly what you just described.
Yes. And there's more to it that kind of in the class. It's that quantum energy can be influenced. right? So it can be influenced by words, by thoughts, by vibrations. And that's why we can actually manifest things, because we're playing with this partner, this quantum energy that is there to help us create what we're trying to create. Now, anything that is created negatively doesn't have any power source to be created. So most of those don't take form or don't take shape, but they will still affect your energetic makeup if you keep going down that road. So the reason why Reiki works is because our intent is to restore the quantum energy to the highest frequency possible. And once the frequency is high, then that's when it's at peace, that's when it's balanced, and that's when the chaos is taken out. And therefore, whatever makes us sick, whatever is causing us pain, is neutralized by this new vibration inside the body.
I understand that, and it's literally just, which is another thing I've been going down, is emotional frequency. Is that what you're talking about? Like the emotional frequency you project into the quantum energy is what's affecting
your mental thoughts, your ideas, and your emotions, as well as your spiritual makeup, all come into play with this quantum energy. Now, I'm going to go a little bit further than Reiki on this one, because seems like this will be more your alley, maybe. We are divine beings, okay? And what's his name? Was it Descartes? No. But one of the French philosophers said, we are not human having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual being having a human experience. So as far as I'm concerned, everything is happening right now in the third dimension is a play. Okay, it's scripted by your contract that you've written before coming to Earth. You have decided as a divine being to enter into the cycle of reincarnation. And while you're embodied in this physical appearance, you are trying to learn important lessons that you'll bring back as a spiritual being to teach others who are not incarnated in the physical body. And so you're the one who scripted this scenario, which means you're in charge. You're the hero of the story. If you don't like your story, change it. But how do you change your hero? Well, your hero has to change, right? So you need to start responding to situation differently. You need to start taking responsibility. Someone came to me once and they wanted to lose weight and they thought that Reiki was going to help. I said, well, come back in 2 weeks and stop drinking the 12 cans of pop you drink every day, and then we'll take it from there. Well, you guys are laughing, but that's the person refused to stop drinking their pop. And I'm like, each pop has 32 to 36 grams of sugar in each can. If you eliminate that alone, you will see a weight loss. You have to be responsible because you're putting that stuff inside of you. You're not just fat for no reason. There's a reason, right? And sometimes it's funny because a lot of humans sabotage themselves and they do so subconsciously. So in different cases, people who want to lose weight that come to me, I said, okay, so I'll come back in 2 weeks and write down everything you eat and what time you eat. Now, most of these people from, morning till about 6 are fine. But why? Because they're busy. They're at work. They can't snack. They can't, they eat their 3 meals. And then they'll say, oh, it's around 10:30. Then all of a sudden, every day they're eating junk. Right? But they weren't consciously aware of that until they wrote it down. And then it becomes conscious, and then I can work with them. Then we can go over, okay, so why is that time triggering you? And sometimes it's because they were sexually abused as a kid, because that's the time the abuser would come in the room, or it could be so many different causes. But first we have to go from subconscious to conscious. My business in French, the name is Awaken Consciousness, because once you're not operating from a subconscious level, once you're actually operating on an awareness, your whole life changes, because you're aware of what you're doing, of the choices and the decisions that you're making. So the whole world around you changes. Now, a lot of people say to me, it's easy for you because, they see me now. So they see me, the successful me with the nice house and, the fact that I'm traveling and I have a nice life, I admit. But that's why I wrote my biography, because I didn't come from a nice place. I came from a very dark place, and I had to pull myself out of there. And no one could do that for me. I had to do that for myself. And that's what I help people do nowadays. But a lot of people are looking at themselves in the pit and they're saying, well, just pull me out. And I'm like, that's not how it works. And then they get angry and they leave. And I'm okay with that, because once they're ready, they'll be back, right? But because we live in a society where everything is done for us, everything is we're giving responsibility to everybody else to do everything for us. We no longer take responsibility for ourselves. So that's a big shift, a big change that people have to do. But once you do that, you then can write a different story for your hero and a different environment, and surround yourself with people that are actually helpful instead of people who are draining you or, putting you down or abusing you even. So all of that creates openings and changes. And then eventually, once you start realizing I am a divine being, so I have divine powers, I have abilities I can own and I can develop and I can use to make not just my life, but the community around me better. And that's the true soul's purpose of every soul that comes to Earth, is to leave the world that they're in a better place. And everybody can do that.
I believe that. And when you were talking about how this was a choice as a divine being, do you think that's why a lot of people who have come to that understanding start to experience gnosis? Because I know for myself, when I started becoming aware that I was a different type of being than I realized, I was starting to just get downloads, or whatever you want to call them, of information that I just all of a sudden needed.
That's the thing. You have to, this awareness I was speaking of is the key, right? If you're not aware, then things can pass you by, and you could have, I'm not proning one religion over the other, but there's a saying that says you might be hosting an angel right now, so why not be kind to everybody you meet? Because you never know which one's going to be the angel, right? But it requires an awareness to realize that, first of all, every being that you meet is a spiritual being. And no one, when they're 5 and 6 years old, will say, when I grow up, I want to be a hooker. And when I grow up, I want to be a killer. And when I grow up, I want to be a drug pusher or whatever, right? When you see other beings and they're not functioning well, for whatever reason, mentally, physically, emotionally, you have to detach from your own experience and your own pain and start seeing these individuals and asking yourself, what could they have gone through that was so painful that broke them to being, this desperate? So you're starting to see the world around you in a different way. I talk to trees, I talk to animals, and I now teach workshops for people to experience that, because they can, right? Because they get taught and they do it and they're like, wow. And it's one of these moments that turns the light on. And then they ask the question, so what else is there? And that's when that's when the downloads occur. That's when you meet people that are opening doors for you that you didn't even know existed, and the world changes.
I actually think that's pretty much what you did this past weekend, circling back to the Reiki for my interdimensional exit buddy here, because she was like a first grader that learned a new word. Like both nights, it was just almost to the point of inaudible at some points. So I'd really like to get into what got you interested in becoming an instructor, and what it was like for you to go to a class, and what got you interested in it in the first place. But I guess, Sonya, we'll start with, how did you go from wanting to practice Reiki to wanting to teach it, and then we'll go to you.
Well, like I said, I could do energy work from what my grandmother taught me, right? So, but I was a bit of a closet person by the time I reached 18. And then I went on this trip to see Telos and Mount Shasta in California, and this lady was there, and she's talking about Reiki. And I'm curious, right? I'm like, so what is it? And then she's starting to say there's symbols, and I'm like, oh, really? So what are those, right? And she's like, oh, those are secret. And I have a aversion to secrets. So I'm like, not if there's secrets, it's dark. I don't want it. So I walked away. But then Reiki kept popping and popping and popping, and I'm like, okay, fine, I'll look into it. And so the only way to really get anything was to take a class. So I took a class, and then I realized it wasn't a secret, it was sacred, which is very, very, very different, right? There's nothing to hide. I can explain it to you, but out of respect for the symbols, I will call them by their common name rather than by their power name. All right. So she could have explained it better. She could have done a better job, but God bless her heart, she did what she could. And so and I had magnificent experience when I was initiated. So I pursued up all the way to being a teacher. And I started giving Reiki, and I was in Vancouver at the time, and I used a simple technique. I gave 24 session away free to people, just anybody. And people were at school. My kids were horseback riding. They were playing soccer. So I had a big, wide network of different markets to tap into. And people came. And then when they would leave, I would give them 10 cards and say, well, as for an exchange, can you tell other people if you like this, just share your experience? Well, I was divorced at the time, so the week I had the children, I wouldn't do anything because I only get them half the time, so that time was precious. But the other week, the weekend and the weekdays after work, I was free, and I would book people for a Reiki session. And then people who were receiving chemo started coming, and it helped their symptoms, it helped their pain, and it made them feel so much better. So they start telling everybody else, the chemo group, and then this group, and then I was booked solid. I was working 50 to 60 hours that week on top of my 40 hours, just giving Reiki to people, right? So it was insane. And then I realized, I said, okay, so maybe there needs to be more people who can give Reiki, because I was starting to turn people away. I didn't have enough room. I didn't have enough time. So I said, maybe what we really need is more people who can give Reiki. And I consider now, and I started teaching in 2013, and I consider now that Reiki should be like first aid. Everyone should have that. One person per household should have that, because first aid is for the physical immediate injury, and Reiki is for everything else. So, and my kids grew up coming to me going, my knee hurts, and putting their knee on my lap and me giving them Reiki. That was normal at our house, right? So, and then I started teaching, and it took off from there.
That is awesome.
And
So-
nowadays, I don't give Reiki anymore because I'm too busy. So I refer people to the people that I trained, and I just handle the classes, and I just teach.
I love how you've done that. It's like, okay, I've learned a very useful and helpful and healing ability. Let's share it. And it kind of sways away from, and her and I both can't stand, is gatekeeping of information. Like, yes, there is a cost, but it is one that is due to, you had to pay your dues, they had to pay their dues. It's not one like, hey, this is paying for like my Bentley. There's certain courses you hear on other podcasts and see online that just sicken me.
Yes. Well, the idea is I'm trying to make it affordable for the general population to be able to come. And I, contrary to a lot who keep the secrets for themselves, they were never secrets. The knowledge got lost. So now that I've recuperated that knowledge, I want as many people as I can to learn about it. And that's why, in the classes, you learn the skills, but you can learn about it because I talk about everything that I do in all my podcasts. right? So I'm not hiding anything. The name of my school is the Wisdom School of Spiritual Transformation. And it's based on all the knowledge from the mystery schools from all the different different countries all around the world. But I don't want it to be a mystery anymore. I don't want it to be a secret anymore. I don't want it to be, like you said, be the gatekeeper and you come in, but you can't. There's, you know, as long as someone is ready and willing. So they're there in a way. I transfer the gatekeeping to themselves. Those who are ready, they come, they learn, and we move forward. And those who aren't, you know, they're not invited again.
So how did you first find out about it and become interested in it? And let's go from there, I guess.
I don't know if you even know this part.
No.
It would probably be before my son was born. Back in the early 2000s, I was with his father at the time, and he had a friend who told me about it. She didn't do a session though, because she said that she wasn't in the right headspace and she didn't really talk a whole lot about it, but it was always in the back of my mind. And then fast forward, I'm gonna say maybe about 2 years ago, I was on a deep dive just for knowledge, and like I started rubbing my eyes, and anyway, I started listening to these podcasts that were talking about different healing modalities. And so, you know, they were talking about Reiki, they were talking about Qigong, traditional Chinese medicine, like different things like that. And I don't I think Reiki, like there was something, I don't even know why, but it jumped out at me. And um and the reason why I went down, like down those trails, is because it was because of you. I mean, it was for my own knowledge, of course, but um I know Don's mentioned this on the show before, but he was in a really bad motorcycle accident when he was 25, and he's had a lot of pain. You know, like the pain that he experiences on a daily basis. Like I can't even wrap my head around. So I was looking for something to help him bring pain relief, and just help him relax, and then I started finding out more and more about Reiki, and I'm like, yeah, I need to do this. And then as I was learning more, I also saw, you know, like when you're treating people, you're also benefiting as well. And I'm like, well, this is a double whammy. Yeah, sign me up. And so we got to the point when Don started working, like he went back to work late this summer. I'm just like, this needs to happen. Like, and I've had there's different people that told me, you know, like, oh, you would be great at this. And you know, I was asking questions, and so the last weekend of September, which was just after my birthday, um Sonya had put on a spiritual wellness fair in Drumheller. And I went in, and I'm looking around, and you know, like talking to different people. And as she frequently says, when the student is ready, the teacher will present themselves. And so, and you know, like everybody that I talked to was absolutely lovely, but there was something about Sonya. I'm like, yep, I got to do this. Sign me up. And now, you know, like after I got signed up and I saw like all of that she was capable of, I was like, oh yeah, she's the right one.
And how
I
was class? Did you enjoy it?
Oh my gosh. Well, my poor coworkers, that's all I gotta say.
Well, and what did a day in the class look like? I guess we'll start with that. Like, you know, what was the routine like? What was it like to have her as a teacher?
Oh, it was fantastic. I was super lucky because it was just me. and we were joined by Chris, her roommate, and oh, Chris, I can't say enough wonderful things about her too. She is fantastic. And so we started out with meditation both mornings. Um, Sunday morning was a little a little more interesting. Um, we they were both guided meditations, and but Sunday morning, we went up to Sonya guided us up to Mount Karuma, and which is the birthplace of Reiki. That's where Master Usei, he went up to meditate for 21 days, and that's where the Reiki system was born.
Well, that's
And
where he
so
received the light, and yeah.
so we were there, and I was sitting, I was visualizing. I was sitting beside a waterfall, and like there was the cliff, and suddenly I smelled incense, and I had my eyes closed the whole time. And I'm like, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm thinking maybe Sonya just lit some incense to set the mood or whatever. And after after the meditation, she asked Chris and I what we experienced, and both of us smelled incense, but she did not light any.
Now, I did mention someone on the mountain lit incense and you could smell it. So, but yeah. And people are like, seriously, at one point, we had a guided meditation and a drumming. And I told people, okay, we're going to sit around the fire. And some people were opening their eyes and looking on the ground during the meditation. I'm like, what are you looking for? It's like the heat source. I'm like, the fire. Like, yeah, but there's no fire here. I'm like, I know, but you're being transported to this other dimension where the fire is burning. And for some people, this is their moment. They're going like, shit, so this is real. I can be in two places at once. I'm like, yes. And I can experience this other dimension with heat and smell and taste. I'm like, yes. And some people, then embark on the Alice in Wonderland jump with me. And some other people are going, this is too crazy for me. And then so it all depends.
Well, wait, she found pictures of the mountain with. Go ahead.
I found pictures where I was sitting.
And what
Honestly,
was in the picture? Incense.
Oh, yes, yes.
yeah.
Like, it was absolutely phenomenal to hear that and then see, like, the look on her face when she pulled it up on her phone and she's like, zoom, 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 like, enhance, 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 right? And she's like, there's incense right there. I knew I smelled it. And I'm like, I don't doubt that you did. I've been places too. Right. And your student definitely learned something. I actually received my first session yesterday because, again, we have 9 to 5 jobs and just can't find a minute, but we actually found a minute. And she was focusing on my third eye chakra. And you're going to have to pardon my language, but I experienced some Doctor Strange shit. I was completely relaxed and into the moment and feeling the energy. And then I started experiencing my own imagination in an extra dimensional way, is all I can say. And she's like, what? And I'm trying to explain to her what's going on in my head right now because everything had expanded and I could wander around my imagination and I was looking at things and I was touching things and I was just like, I don't even know how to explain this. And I was like, she's like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, I'm in my imagination right now. So
But
yeah,
that you were able to go inside your chakra.
Yeah.
Each of, like, I like to explain things with images because it makes things easier sometimes for people. Have you seen the movie Mulan? Not the real action one, but the kid, so he's a big dragon. And then he's travel size, right?
Yeah.
And he's the little annoying red dragon that, you can carry. Well, your chakras are everything is perception. We are limiting ourselves with time and space. If you can get outside of time and space, then you can become as big as a mountain or as tiny as an ant. And so you're able to enter the chakras and be inside as a full-size person. because these things are just concepts and ideas, and you're just traveling from one concept to one idea. So you're not limited by your size. You can shrink or be as big as you can, as dense as you need to be, or as gaseous as you want. So you can escape any space. You're not trapped anywhere, and there's no places on earth that you can't access or you can't be at any time.
Ow, my head, but I get it.
Oh, now I'm gonna have to sit with him and listen to.
Well, no, when she was explaining this, I was thinking about the episode of Typical Skeptic that I was on, because when I kind of came online, I was like, okay, I know how to do all this stuff. Now, what do I do with it? So I just went on a spree of remote viewing. I had a specific intent. I don't agree with certain people that remote view people and occupied places. I was like, okay, I want to remote view just military bases. I don't want to see any people. I just want to go to the places. And I spent about the next 45 minutes on another podcast pulling up not marked military base after military base, ending with Space Force. And the host was just like, "How did you do that?" I'm like, "Oh." Like,
yeah, the possibilities once you open your mind are pretty amazing.
No, I was just gonna say I am still wrapping my head around the part like the long distance Reiki is real. The oh my goodness, the very first session that I ever did, the lady, she was in BC, and we spoke to her before, and then we did the session with three of us working. And I was doing the top part, and I got to her like the neck, or her manifestation chakra, like the nose. And I could feel in my hands, I could feel it was unbalanced. And like there was a buzzing going on in my left hand, but my right hand there was nothing. And so I just like I just did my thing. And then after the session was over, we called her, and she said, "I don't want to tell you where the pain is. I want to see if your student if she figured it out."
So
And
just so you know, though, I usually ask people not to do that. I ask them to be more, open, because you're in a learning experience, so it puts less pressure on you.
yeah, oh, I loved it. I loved it. So I described it to her, and I told her what I had felt, and she said, like, sure enough, that's where she was feeling discomfort. And it's like that was that was the very first time I ever did it. And like, to the people that are watching, like, if you haven't done this, like, if you're interested in Reiki, do it, because like it's amazing. And you like everybody has it within them. You can do it, and if you're just thinking about it, just do it.
which kind of brings me to the next question is, we're discussing quantum energy. How, I don't know if there's a way to simplify this question, but like, how exactly do you move and transfer the energy? If it's not a spoiler and something sacred, I caught myself.
No, that's not. But people being curious now, we're talking. There was internet back in. The internet started probably around 2000 to, but I I didn't have a personal computer in my home. I worked on computers at university, at my work, and but I didn't get a computer myself until 1999. Right? So and it was new then, so you didn't have everything that you have on there now, right? But someone saying Reiki symbols, and you put that in Google, you'll get them, right? But out of respect, when I talk about them, I I respect their sacredness. Now, you want to know how the quantum energy works, because it will take the research done by the Japanese doctor. What was his name, Kyla?
Dr. Emoto.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Dr. Emoto took a source of water, and the source is the same. So you can't say that he took pristine water and water from a lake that's, you know, putrid or anything. And he wrote names, or he put the water on paper with either sayings or psalms or Islam stuff, and the water would crystallize either as sacred geometry or snowflakes or magnificent things, or become very dark and unclear if they were words that have a more negative connotation, like war or death, or, you know, as opposed to angel, joy, love, honesty, whatever, right? So he proved, because, and that's why that in the book I use the molecule of water, right? Because I can follow up with this. So even a word that is sitting there on this water is affecting the water. The word is not even spoken. It's not even said out loud. It's just sitting there. So in the same way, your voice has a frequency. If your voice is singing, it could have a nice frequency. If your voice is screaming and yelling, all of a sudden it becomes very chaotic. All of these, everything can be, the reason why we have an image that goes through a cable and transfers back into an image on your TV or your laptop, it's a matter of frequency. So color have frequency. Obviously sounds has frequency, but your words, your thoughts, your emotion also have frequencies. So what I'll draw something, and oh, I'm sorry for the people just listening in because you won't get to see it. But so what you want, it's called the sinewy dal. Sorry, I learned this in French. But you want the valleys and the peaks to be evenly separated, and this is the closest thing to harmony that you can have. All right. So if you're swearing, screaming, if you're watching violent shows, this becomes chaotic and misplaced. If you're constantly anxious, if you're constantly yelling, if you're constantly in an environment where you're watching murder and horrible things, your brain cannot differentiate. Okay, that's why you jump when you're watching a movie, right? You get scared because they're so real. Your brain doesn't differentiate that you're sitting in a movie theater or at home in your living room. It reacts chemically exactly as if you just witnessed that murder, or you're in that horror house and you're being chased by a clown. So what we're doing with Reiki, which Reiki, the reason why it's sacred is because it comes from the source. So all that Kyla learned on the weekend is that you're the cell phone, God, creator, universe is the power source, and she's the wire that goes from the power source to the phone. That's her only role. So Kyla, and I know a lot of people are afraid to do Reiki because they're like, well, if I give so much energy, I'll be depleted. You don't get depleted. First of all, the energy comes from the source through you, so it recharges you personally. And then you send the excess to the other person. So you're never depleted. On the contrary, every time you give Reiki to someone, your own batteries get recharged and you're, clearing your own self as you're helping the other person. So it's an added benefit. Now, this sacred energy, this quantum revival that enters through your body and gets distributed through your hands at level 1 and 2, because as Kyla, if she decides to go further, she will be able to distribute Reiki with her entire being, right? She will become like an intense light that's just going to shine energy all around her. So it doesn't have to be just through her hands anymore, right? But it's a learning process. So this energy is given to you by Creator. So your only intent when you're doing this is for the highest good of the person, that you may be the brightest conduit to help them revive this energy, this quantum energy that's dying inside of them, or has become inactive because it's not being fed. It has no living energy left. And then we change the frequency of the body to a evenly spaced, undulated frequency, which restores peace, calm, balance, and raises the ability of the frequency to raise, and so eventually reach higher frequency, helps you to heal, and also to start getting messages, things like that. Does that answer your question?
It does. And I guess my takeaway on that is, like, your intention is what you're projecting into reality, because, like you were saying, your emotional frequency, the words you're using, everything is putting something out and affecting every molecule, as we were talking about earlier, in front of us. So what you project into reality is what's going to cause an effect, basically.
Yes. And also, the subconscious of a person is extremely powerful. This is why I try to teach people to become very aware of what's hiding inside of them and what wounds that they're carrying with them. Because if it's in your subconscious, and your subconscious is like 80%, yes, thank you. Your subconscious is, if you're not awake, let's go that way. If you're not awake, it's like you getting into a taxi and sitting in the back of the taxi, and then the taxi driver is, so where to? And you say, well, you decide. And then you're not happy when the taxi driver takes you behind a very shady area and robs you blind, right? And you're angry at the universe, but the universe is like, but you got into the taxi cab yourself, and you decided to let someone drive for you, and you asked for this. So if you don't want that to happen, I would say, first of all, you get in the cab, know where you're going, so you know when you've reached your destination. But eventually, why are you even asking the taxi cab driver to take you there? Just get there by yourself, rent your own car, drive your own vehicle. Because they don't do that much anymore, because people know. But there used to be a time when you get in the cab and they take a detour, because you knew, especially the airport cab are terrible for that, because you don't know where you're going. So they take a detour to get more money and to get you there. But now, I really love this about New Orleans. The cab get a basic fare, so they actually get you there as fast as they can, because it's a basic fare. They can't charge you more than that, so they'll get you there really quick, because they don't get a penny more. I love that idea. That was awesome. So stop, depending on everybody else, and get at the wheel of your own car. But in order to do that, you got to know where you're going. In order to do that, you got to know why are you going there in the first place. And maybe that's not the best destination. Maybe now that you're awake and you're more conscientious, you'll pick a whole different location. I'm going to share with you. I had very poor friends, and it became very obvious. I had just renovated the basement of my house and did a beautiful suite in there, and I was going to start using it to teach, actually. And at the same time, a friend of mine, who I thought was a friend, ended up in the streets. Her husband was cheating on her with hookers, so they got divorced, and she has 2 kids, and she's in the street. She's got nothing. She's got no job, and he's got no money, and they got nowhere to go. So I said, well, come and live in my suite. You can live there for 3 months for free, get back on your feet, find a job, and then start paying rent, which was half of what I could have gotten, because she's a friend. And eventually, she didn't pay the rent. Her dog peed and poo all over my carpet, wrecked all my door frames, my doors. The kids are written on the wall, freshly painted suite, right? Fresh new carpets. Everything was brand new in that place. It was trashed. And so eventually I said, you need to get out. That's enough, right? After they left, I had a trailer full of garbage. Mind you, it's true, the carpet took a lot of room in that trailer, but still, I had to throw away the molding around the doors. I had to replace all the carpets. I had to repaint the entire place. And I'm sitting there once it's done, and I'm thinking, why on earth did this happen? And this is the important thing. If you just keep going through life and you just go through the motion and you never stop and ask the important question, nothing's ever going to change. But in that point in time, I'm like, why is this happening? I don't understand. I'm a good person. I did this out of the goodness of my heart. I was trying to help. She destroyed this place. It cost me thousands of dollars to fix it, right? And that's when I did the subconscious exercise. And I found out that hidden deep inside my subconscious, I had the belief. So, we're talking about emotion, we're talking about thoughts, but even your beliefs, and I think they're more powerful than anything else. My belief was I was unlovable. I was unlovable because my mother never said I love you. And so my subconscious internalized that if the person that gave birth to me that should have loved me the most couldn't love me at all, I am unlovable. So no matter what I do, how kind and helpful I am, I will never be loved. And so that's the best you're going to get. Just take it. Because I was very angry. I was like, I can't believe I still have this stuck inside of me. Like, what the hell? I have a technique that can change that, right? So I worked on it, I changed it. And all of a sudden, all the people that I thought were my friends stopped calling, they stopped coming. Even though I was prepared to call each and every one of them to say to them, you're not my friend. That's not how a friend acts. That's, I don't want you contacting me. I didn't have to do any of that. They magically disappeared. It literally felt like I was transported in a different area. I still live in the same house, and yet now I'm meeting nice people. I'm meeting kind people. I'm meeting helpful people. My environment, my house is in the same town, but my environment completely shifted and changed. And that's how I met my business partner. Now I created room. I got rid of all the garbage. I got rid of all the people that have taken advantage of me and my kindness and everything else. And now, because I had all this space, new people could walk in. And I'm now surrounded by loving, caring, amazing, supportive people who believe in me and are 100% behind me. Excuse me. Every time I come up with a crazy idea, like, let's do a fair and drum heller. It's a lot of work. And some people are looking at me going, it's never going to work. It's going to fail. It's going to flop. And I'm like, you don't know who I am. You have no idea who I am. And I was new to Drumheller. So now people are starting to realize, oh, okay, when Sonya put something together, it's actually, it's worth going to see. It's worth visiting. So the shift is I no longer let this belief that was hidden deep in my subconscious lead the way for me. And that changed who I was. So those
you actually reminded me something that she taught me, which is like a lot of people that just live their 9-to-5 lives are creator beings on autopilot, right? And that's exactly what you're alluding to, is like you're creating your own reality because it's just the same old crap that you're putting out every day. So you're getting the same old crap back, right? Because that's what you're creating. We are creator beings. Everything that we intend to, that is positive, that we put out into the reality, will come to fruition if done properly, right?
But most people don't do it. Most people don't even know they can do it. Most people, like they go to work and and I find this appalling. I mean, I know I'm not super old, but there was a world before cell phone. Right? When you'd go and you'd meet people and you'd talk to people, complete stranger on the street, and it was whatever, right? But now people are on their phone. They're at the restaurant, they're on their phone, they're walking, they're on their phone, they're on the bus, they're on their phone, and they're missing all these opportunities for synchronicity, for eye contact, for I'm sure you have that, right? Someone comes up to you, or you like, have we met before? You look very familiar to me, right? That's usually a way for the universe to bring you to this person. And this happens to me all the time. And I'm like, no, but maybe you watch my podcast. It's easy for me, right? That's my out, right? Maybe you've seen my podcast. No, what do you do? And then the doors open and whatever information they needed is now available to them, but they have to first make eye contact with me. You have to leave your phone in your pocket and you have to, do like me and just forget it. Oops, at home. because that I grew up, we had one phone attached to the wall in the kitchen. There
And the
was
cord was
not even an answering machine. So you missed the call, man. You missed the call. And that answering machine came around, and it was amazing because you could miss a call, but you got the message. But nothing was so urgent that you'd call them the next day, kind of thing, or when you got home. Now people are like, I sent you an email. Didn't you get it? I'm like, I'm working right now. I look at emails. If I constantly look at my email, I'll never get work done. So I have, I had to. I look at email in the morning when I get up for an hour, and then I stop and I go to work, and then before dinner I look at them for an hour, and then if I'm not done, it'll be done the next day. Because otherwise, I will always be looking at a screen and never be looking at people.
I drive in Calgary for my job. Probably once a week, I almost run somebody over on their phone, and I drive a big septic truck. So, like, the amount of people you see that never look up anymore, it is insane.
Yeah, and those are all missed opportunities for you to actually meet somebody new, for you to, how would I add all these clues about the podcast if I didn't talk to people? I would have missed all that, right? So yeah, my phone is put away, and it's strange because I'll be having coffee with a friend and my phone's gonna ring. They're gonna go, "Oh, you're gonna get that?" I'm like, "No, because I'm with you." we took the time out of our lives to meet together. Why on earth would I talk to someone else on the phone? I'll call them back, right? And then she's like, "Do you do that to me too?" I said, "Not personally. I don't look at the phone and say, oh, it's her, I'm not going to pick up. The only people I pick up are my kids." Right? Those ones, if they're not my kid, because they don't usually call me to, just chat. If they're calling, there's usually something going on, right? So I'll pick up and I say, "Is this important?" And they know the routine, and they'll say, "No, you can call me back later." Okay, good. But if it's urgent, if it's important, I don't know, I broke my arm, or, I had a car accident, then, I'm going to say, "Excuse me, the life I brought into this world actually needs my help. I'm going to go and take care of that."
I absolutely commend that, and I wish more people would do that, because the guilt shaming obligatory you have to answer your damn phone is just insane now.
Oh, again, that's your choice, right? And what I found, the biggest transformation for me, when I say I love myself and I'm going to treat myself with respect, right? When I shifted that from I'm unlovable, I set their own rules. This is my phone. This is my life. This is my time. So I'm going to use it as I see fit. Now, I would, again, let's be clear, all things being equal, I would never hurt someone or harm someone, right? That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying if I have a choice, it's right now it's turned off. Out of respect for this podcast, I don't want the phone to ring while I'm doing this with you. Otherwise, I think I'm sending the message, you're not important. This is more important. Whoever it is more important than you. So that's not the message I want people to get. So I usually tell people, like my aunt is 100 years old. And she's like, "Well, I don't want to call because maybe I'll disturb you." I'm like, "Auntie, if you're calling and I'm busy, my phone is turned off. Leave a message." And I said, "Even if you don't leave a message, I'm going to see that you called because it tells me your phone number. And I'll call you back when I'm available. And if it's too late, because we're in a different time zone," I said, "if it's too late to call you back, I'll call you the next day. So I can call anytime I want." I'm like, "Yes." So now she calls like every 2 days. But sometimes I don't answer, and she's like, "Oh, you must be busy. Just call me back when you get a chance," right? So I think it's all a matter of training the people around you. Like my kids, I never have to say no phone at the table. I think if we're gonna sit and eat together, we should look at each other and communicate with each other. You can get back to your phone, so my meals at my house were always very swift. But for that period of time, we're actually off the screens. So how was everybody's day? Does anybody need anything? Is anything special need for tomorrow? Is there anything I should know about? No, you're done eating. Okay, goodbye. But at the very least, we touch base, right? one of the exercises I did with my son is once a week, because he felt very overwhelmed when his sisters were around, and then the sisters would go to their dad, and it was just the two of us, and he felt like I wasn't very present when the sisters would be home. And I said, well, I only see them every other week. I still take care of you, but I said, can you not understand? And I guess he couldn't. So I would get a babysitter for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and him and I would go to take a hot chocolate somewhere. And that was the space and time that he could tell me anything, and I wasn't allowed to get mad. Mm. And it seemed useless when we started this because he was about 8 or 9. However, now he's 30 years old, and he knows, hey, Mom, can I talk to you? Is like, I will say, not right now, or yeah. And I drop everything, I turn everything off, even though we're on the phone. He sees that my attention is not divided. It's not anywhere else. It's just him and I, and whatever he needs to share, we share. Sometimes it's nothing really earth-shattering or important, but sometimes he has a big decision to make and he wants to run them by me. And so these things can be learned.
I think I'm going to be implementing some of that in my own life, to be completely honest. Before we get going, I'd love if you can give everybody an overview of the books that you've written. I know there's a bunch of them. And
do you want to pick one?
Before we even get into that, I would absolutely love to have you back on, because like I said, go to sonyaroy.com and check it out, because you could spend a week there, and I still have like a page of stuff that I haven't even scratched on. So I would absolutely love to have you back.
Oh, this is Mr. I'm a little nervous. I don't know if I don't know what we're going to talk about. I'm like, you're not going to have any problem at all.
But you're lucky. I have my own podcast, and we're talking about my stuff, so that's easy. And I get invited on. I mean, you had questions. I'm invited on the Sun podcast. They're like, hey, Sonya, we're picking this topic today, and I had no time to prepare whatsoever, and we just go. So I think if you want me to talk about one of the books, kind of showed it a little earlier. It's my new one that just came out this year. It's Narcissism: How to Thrive. And what is the bottom line? I don't have one a copy.
12 steps to successfully heal and flourish after narcissistic abuse.
There you go. The first part of the book is describing what is narcissism, because people need to understand that a lot more people may have been either raised by one or had one in their environment. And then we go over the damages that is caused by this abuse, because that's what it is. Being involved either with a parent or a spouse that is a narcissist, it's an abusive relationship. They chip away at you, they destroy your self-esteem. And it causes hypervigilance, it causes depression, it causes a whole slew of things. And then we get into the other half of the book, which is how to build yourself back up step by step. Now, I've done this with people, and obviously, it takes a while, and it's an expensive process if you do it with me. So I'm always trying to find a way in a cheaper fashion that you are able to still get the knowledge and still be able to function with the program. So we put it into a book. So it's like I'm holding your hand through the entire process. And I'm always open if people want to message me or email me or call me and say, listen, I bought your book, I'm here, and I'm stuck or whatever. I'll answer a question, right? I won't do a whole session or therapy, but I'll answer the question. And it helps people understand how to rebuild themselves. And in step 11 is what is a friend? What is a relationship? And I explain what a healthy relationship looks like. Because if you had a narcissistic parent or a narcissistic spouse, that means you can't recognize what a good relationship is. You've lost this ability. You're distorted in the way the world works. I had become highly suspicious of kind people. Because a narcissist is kind when they need something. The kinder they are, the more big the ass is going to be, right? So I had to take off the old glasses and put the new glasses on and see the world properly, right? So a true friend is someone that acts this way. A true apology, that's what a true apology looks like. And I walk you through to being your own empowered individual at the end of the book.
I love that, and I might have to give that a read after she does.
I think you should. I really think you should.
Because I'm sure there's several in my life that I haven't identified.
Well, it's not to point finger at them. And like I had someone who bought the book and they went back to the narcissistic parent and says, "You're a narcissist." They'll never admit they're a narcissist. They'll never change. So that's not what the book says to do, right? The book says this is your own personal journey, and you're gonna let that go, and you're gonna just focus on yourself and protect yourself from this ever happening to you again, and allowing yourself to thrive. And literally, that I wanted that in the title of the book, thrive. So you didn't just survive the narcissistic abuse, but you're flourishing. You're taking charge of your life again. You're laughing again. You're happy again. You're successful again, and you're back to who you are always meant to be.
That is awesome, and I think exactly where somebody I know is headed. So before we get going, I know I've shouted out your website a couple of times. Is there anywhere else anybody or everybody can find your stuff and how to get a hold of you?
I think the easiest place is the website because it's so easy to memorize, right? It's sonyaroy.com. So for the listeners, it's SONYAROY.com. And on there, you can access the LinkedIn, the X, the Instagram, the YouTube live feeds and videos that I make, the podcast channel. We have everything from there that just tentacles out to everywhere else. So if there's a medium that works better for you, then you can just go and pick that and then subscribe to wherever we are and keep getting our updates. The easy way to know all of our activities, though, is to sign up for the newsletter. And that's also available on the website. And we're just about to sign one in the next day or two with our new activities coming up for 2025. And it's a full schedule. So, yeah.
Yeah. And again, I have to say, your website is one of the most veritable, like just a smorgasbord of information for people on their spiritual journey and so well put together. Like, I barely scratched the surface on it, and I have pages of questions and things I'd love to discuss with you. So, um, my hat is off to you. That is an amazing source of information. I can't say enough nice things about it. Just some of the subjects I've given a glossary glance to is like, oh my God, I have to come back and read that. I have to come back and watch that. I have to come back and do that. So,
yeah, well, because a lot of people are focusing on one thing, right? So they do Reiki and that's all they do. And other people do Akashic Record and that's all they do. And I'm trying to tell people, imagine myself inside of a ball and the ball is full of doors. And they all lead to inside the ball, right? So it's not, when you get enough knowledge, you realize that these things are not they're not individuals things, they're all interrelated, they're all connected. So when you see the connection, and that's where the website covers so much ground, because we touch on all these things and how they connect to each other.
I love that, because that actually goes hand in hand with something I've said a lot too, is like the reason I do this, the reason I try to talk to so many people is because this person's going to tell me this and this person's going to tell me this, and where it all lines up is what's actually true and what actually works in this reality.
Absolutely. Yeah. In the books, even though it's Usui Reiki, which is Japanese, I incorporate other cultures inside the books to start to open people's mind to the fact that even though this is Japanese, it's universal. Everybody in the world is calling it different things, but it's all energy work, right? And then it's all I'm trying to help the people now. We're putting together a series of books, and we're at about 700 pages, so we had to divide it in 3. But we're putting together all the knowledge that I have. we were gonna publish it. We were gonna publish this cute little book, and now it's up to 700 pages. I'm like, okay, this is too big. No, it's gonna be like this thick. So now we're dividing it in 3 sections. So we're hoping to get those published this year. That's our goal. But yeah, so that's how much knowledge, and I didn't realize just how much I had until I started putting it all down, and it was like, okay, wow, yeah, and we haven't covered this yet. And so we're now we're also doing self-study, 3 self-study books, and 3 we'll have 3 online classes, so people will be able to join from anywhere in the world. And you can't do all of the program that way, but at the very least, there's now going to be 3 self-study, 3 online classes. You get you going, and then you realize if you need me, then we have retreats, so you can come and spend a week here and work with me for a week.
That
and the the wellness center, like the property is just beautiful. Like it's I have no words. Like it's worth the trip.
In the summer, it's more fun.
Oh, the winter would blew my mind, so I can only imagine the summer.
So yeah, there you go. So the books are also all on the website. We have meditation CD musics that we made. They're on the website. So the website's really the source to go to pick and choose what you need.
I'm actually going to comb back through your information as well and try to find some more stuff on being able to focus some of my experiences, because this has been a very inspiring conversation. You've got some wheels turning. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure to be here.
And other than that, I want to thank everybody for listening, and my beautiful co-host, interdimensional exit buddy, Kyla Canadian Spinja. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for the Reiki. Thank you for teaching her, because it is a wonderful skill, and it is already helping my poor beaten up, battered body that I don't try not to bitch about too much. And for those of you watching, thank you for watching. But if you can go outside, go outside, because it's a lot better than being in front of a screen.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.